Hello, English 102 online students. It's Professor Jay here, and I'm doing a week wrap up after week one. We're starting on week two, and I want to make sure I answer questions that I was sent by email and get us ready and on track for our next week. So, first question I received, where do we take these notes? What kind of annotation do you want? On page 15 of the orange packet, there's directions specifically about how I want to annotate. There are examples, visual examples that should show you what I'm looking for, but you've all been taking notes for a long time. So combine your system, whatever it is that got you this far, with what I'm asking you to do that's pretty detailed. I'm asking you to be detailed because you need to be familiar with the text. We're going to be building on the same case as we go along, so being familiar with it, able to come back to it for other essays and your research paper is important, and also so that you can bring in quotes and important points for your first paper, which is coming right up. So taking notes, you're going to do it yourself. I'm not going to check it. You just need to do it because otherwise it's really hard to do everything else. There are 3 quizzes throughout the semester, and each of them is basically just designed to make sure you're keeping up with the reading. And if you don't do well on one of them, it's probably because you're struggling with the reading and you haven't done the annotation. There are 10 questions, it's 25 minutes, it's open book. If you can put the book open and you annotated it, they shouldn't take like more than 5 minutes. They're multiple choice or fill in the blanks or true false. So they go quickly, but they're hard to do if you haven't read the materials. So that should hopefully answer questions on annotation. Like I said, page 15 of the orange packet, there are details specifically about how to do it. If you prefer to do it in a notebook separately or some of it in the packet and some of it in the notebook, I think that is a good combo. So I hope that answers questions on that. Some people said they were confused about calendars and when things were due and how they were due and when they were supposed to submit them. There is a calendars tab right here to the side of the announcements page near your lessons unit, but just above it. If you click on that, you should be able to see on your calendar when all of the assignments are due. They are also listed in the course packet. At the front, there are calendars. You'll see your calendar for the fall. It says online classes, and every single date is marked out there, and I put that same calendar in the unit. So hopefully that's not too confusing. At the very bottom of the lesson 1, you're on unit 1, there is a little submission box. It just looks like, part of the regular unit, and you'll go in there to submit when the time comes. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. All right, next thing. This week, I'm going to provide times for you, time slots that I hope you'll either come in and meet with me in my office hours, or we'll Skype. The Skypes are going to be short. It's just a chance for me to connect with you and make sure that if you have a question, you have a chance to answer it and we can talk face to face. So Skypes are this week. There'll be sign up times below. Peer review, you're going to write your first draft this week, and I want to make sure that you have peers to work with. Sometimes it happens that peers don't respond and you send things and you don't hear back from them. What I'm looking for you to do is if you send things out to peers and you don't hear in a timely manner, then you definitely should reach out to somebody else in another group. It's not locked in. You just want to find enough people so that you have at least 2 people make comments on your drafts. They should make them in either OneDrive or Google Docs, whichever you prefer. Make them right in the side in the comments panel so that they can say, oh, this thing, that thing. And there are specific directions in the back of your yellow packet that say what I'm looking for in terms of peer review. I'm not looking for you to fix people's grammar, spelling, and punctuation. I'm asking for you to look deeper at their ideas. Are they answering the question I asked? The question has multiple parts. I'd recommend annotating the question itself and breaking it down so that you understand what it is I'm asking you to address. So breaking the question down, when you look at your peers draft, do they seem to be answering it? Hopefully they have their argument laid out in their intro after introducing what the overall topic is and then what the readings were and a very brief explanation of those readings. Please don't use a hook or a grabber. I don't need you to grab me. So just get started and jump right in with the ideas and the explanation of the text. Then present your thesis at the end of that opening paragraph. The thesis is going to have to be multiple sentences in order to answer a question that includes multiple questions. So bear that in mind. So that's one thing you'd be looking for as a peer for peer review. Then in the body paragraphs, are people actually bringing in materials from both the podcasts and from the Mark Green reading? If there's only things from one podcast or only things from Mark Green, as a peer, you'd want to mark that and say, you need to look at stuff from multiple sources in order to back up your points. So that would be something I'd be looking for. Did they use MLA citation correctly? I have an MLA citation video that's in our lesson. Please review it. There's also MLA citation information in your yellow packet. Please review it. There are samples and worksheets. I don't always assign the worksheets. The worksheets are for you if you need to go back and review. Sometimes I'll say, please, please, please make sure you go over the transitions worksheet or the conclusions worksheet or the, whatever it is. But I'm really leaving it to your discretion because you probably know where some of your weaknesses are. And after you get your first set of comments, that should help you figure out like, oh, I need to go back and review how to do an intro. But as you get started on that first paper, this is a great time to look at reminding yourself how to do a block quote, reminding yourself how to bring in, how to analyze the block quote once you put it there and not just like throw it in and then move on to your next point. So that's another thing I'd be hoping you look for in peer review. Did the person raise a good point and bring in some quotes and then just move on without explaining how they connect to their argument? That you should comment on. So those are the big picture things. I've listed the peer review steps that I want you to follow. They're in the back of the yellow packet. You can find them. First, papers, I asked for 2 to 3 pages for the rough draft, 3+ pages for the final. In order to answer this question, you're probably going to have to go over the 3 pages. I'm not requiring it. I'm just saying it's very likely that you go to 4 or 5, but I don't want students for their first paper to feel like I asked for too much on top of all of the listening. So that's why I gave you the amount that I did. So hopefully that makes sense too. What other questions did I get? Oh, I can't remember them all. All right, so if you have more questions that I didn't answer in this video, please, please, please make sure that you sign up for a Skype time with me or come in and talk to me during office hours if you prefer, and I'll answer them for you. I hope you've had a good first week. I hope you're enjoying the case and that, you're starting to get comfortable with the materials. Obviously, the 2 podcasts approach the topic very differently. One is much more analytical and looks at it from the legal perspective. The other one is more of a story, and Sarah Caney just wants to get to the bottom of it and blah, blah, blah. So you've seen the differences, but hopefully you're beginning to get familiar with the case and starting to think about, in this case, for Essay 1, memory and how memory works, and autobiographical memory and how eyewitness accounts and memory function, and how Asia McLean's memory might compare to other people's memory, and how her memory fits with the criteria that Mark Green gives us. Are we surprised that her memory might be a little stronger than he would anticipate? Or does it seem to have a bunch of flaws in it? Is there a time when suddenly she seems to not remember anything, but then she comes back and it remembers it exactly the same way? So for example, at one point over the 15-year history, she basically takes it all back. Is that the same as not remembering, or is that covering it up because something happened? So I want you to be thinking about that as you're reading along, that sort of thing. But I don't want this to go on too long, so I want to make sure that you're ready for the week and that we've had a chance to touch base. And I really look forward to talking to you all. Okay, have a good weekend.